Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, how you doing? Welcome back onto the program. Today on the show, in the second part of the program, we will have computer and technology news, where we talk about anything and everything technology related. We have a ton of different stories, everything from, the Federal Reserve Board of Governors mentioned that Bitcoin was a doomed payment system and failed, doomed for failure. I think that's already been proven not true, but yeah, stuff like that. We have everything from YouTube, TV and its new advancements, Musk and $30 billion to Starlink, stuff like that. It's always a fun segment. If we have time, we'll go ahead and do that. So stick around for that. But in the first part of the show, we have a company called, of course, Quantum Emotion, or eMotion, I guess I should say. And this is all going to be about cryptography, cyber criminals, and just how is the next generation of technology going to keep our data safe? Because at this point, even if you don't use it, all of our lives are online. All of our data is online. And yeah, the tools and sophistication of the attacks, either from nation states, individuals, hacking groups, doesn't matter. It's getting better day after day. And of course, how are we going to keep up with that? And how are we going to actually stay ahead of it? Now, that's what our guest is going to answer, and we'll bring him on in just a moment. But if you want to find out more, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including a link to quantumemotion.com, if go straight there if you'd like, or at our website in the show notes, we'll have it linked right there. So if you're driving, if you're busy, can't write this down, it's okay, we got you covered. Just remember computeramerica.com. While you're there, you'll also find articles, reviews, show notes, of course, the podcast. If you can't listen to us live on IRN, then we definitely appreciate it, and you can of course listen to us on the podcast. I think that's enough for morning announcements. Let's go ahead and get things started with our guest. And joining us from Quantum Emotion, or eMotion, I should really kind of emphasize that, Quantum E-Motion, is the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Francis Bellido. Hopefully I said that right. And Francis, welcome on to Computer America. How you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you to welcome here. Very happy to participate it.
Our pleasure. And sorry, my ninth grade Spanish was trying to kick in, and I wanted to say Francis Bellido, but I mean, obviously,
correct.
Well, hey, it could be up there too. But yeah, you are up there in Montreal, Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, exactly. Yes, the company's the headquarters are located in Montreal, Quebec. The province in Quebec in Canada. Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'm glad that you're up there avoiding the worst of the heat wave that the rest of North America seems to be dealing with. But hey, I'm happy that you're here to join us. And I think a good place to start would be a bit of background on Quantum eMotion and a bit of background on yourself. When was the company started? What's its mission? And last but not least, have you always been in cybersecurity, tech? What is your background as well?
Okay, so let me give you maybe a few words at first on the quantum emotions, more
Sure.
important than me at the end of the day. So Quantum Emotion was a company, previously was called actually Quantum Numbers Corporation. We decided to change the name maybe to be closer to probably what the essence of the company is all about. And I think I'll explain it as later on the show. We talk about the mechanism of action, the electron tunnel effect, it's a quantum phenomenon, quantum mechanic phenomenon. But the company was a spin-off of University of Sherbrooke, was actually a university, that it's in Quebec also. It was created around the work of a world-renowned, quantum physicist, the professor Bertrand Relais. And Bertrand had the ambition to develop probably the second generation, I would say we would call the quantum random numbers generator. That actually we believe is actually a very tremendous improvement in cryptographic solutions, and what we call it the second generation of cryptographic solution. And QRNGs, as you will know, it's a technology that is expected to the market is expected to grow tremendously in the next decade. And we believe that our technology, will allow us actually to create the smallest, the most reliable and performant, and affordable to actually QRNG in the market. So what is I guess, I give you a few background. Yes, myself, I'm a scientist originally, also with a specialty in corporate finance. So I think my specialty today is, I would say, it's actually how to develop and finance technologies. And I started my career in life science, so I have a very strong background in developing technologies, but also I think a strong interest in cybersecurity. So I joined the company at the beginning of the year, in January. That was in the middle of a financing, that helped the company to complete. And just for the history, the company is 4 years old, and has developed the technology that has a very strong patent, protection. We have 4 patents that have been issued by the U.S. Patent Office. So here we are, and we believe, again, maybe I should give you a few words or let you maybe ask me the question, but
sure.
What do you want interest about? What is a quantum number, a random number generator?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of ways that we could, start to break this down. I think that a good way to, because yes, we do have kind of a tech savvy, kind of audience, but I always try to make sure that we don't assume any kind of knowledge on the guest part. I guess a good place to start would be this whole, let's just start with quantum. I mean, that is, we can start to talk about, kind of how quantum works into all this, but we have seen quantum in a number of products that have come here on the show, quantum this, quantum that. It's almost like a marketing word at this point, but that's not the case here. You are actually using, kind of quantum random number generator that you're talking about. What separates quantum from traditional, traditional computers that we're used to? How is your technology fundamentally different than what's already on the market?
Okay, so exactly what you said. We are part, of the what we call the quantum technologies, and quantum technologies, if I may say so, it's an incoming revolution that's going to carried by actually quantum computing, quantum sensing, and quantum communication. We are part actually of the quantum communication, part of it, And I guess it's all about, all these technology take advantage of quantum physics phenomenon that can enhance, for example, by hundreds of thousands of times the power of computing, and by factorizing, the break keys, that enhancing, in fact, the power and the efficiency of the computer to a level that it was difficult to imagine. And these technologies are completely going to revolutionize our economy and even probably our own lives. Quantum computer is considered, that it will predict to be mainstream in 4 or 5 years.
So, so long-term listeners of the show may have a little bit of background in this. We actually had on most recently, it was IBM Research with their quantum lab, and kind of the work that they were doing. And since then, obviously, it seems like every major tech company at least has been investing in this as well. We've seen Google, we've seen Amazon, we've seen obviously IBM, Intel, many other tech companies trying to at least start to dip their toes in the water of quantum computing. I will say that one of the kind of clarifications that the scientist that came on the show to talk with us kind of made was that it's a traditional computer is still going to do traditional computer things better than a quantum computer ever will, but a quantum computer will be able to do things that a traditional computer never will. It's almost like these technologies will kind of happen at the same time and develop kind of separately. It's not like everyone's going to be playing video games on a quantum computer anytime soon, but to what you were kind of saying with your point was that quantum computers will be able to do things like cryptography, random number generation, infinitely better than traditional computers.
Well, it's exactly that to the point. I didn't come here to talk about quantum computers, even if it's a fascinating, fascinating area. And it's going to do, I agree completely with you. If you're going just to send emails, you don't need quantum computers. But if you wanted to mimic how a human brain works, you will need quantum computers allied to artificial intelligence. But let me tell you that, yes, the point here for us, in the discussion here is that part of quantum technologies are addressing cybersecurity.
Right.
Because, and I think I need to give you sort of a refreshment on how communication over the internet is accomplished today. The security over the internet is enhanced, and carried by what we call the public key crypto systems like RSA. They use actually sophisticated encryption algorithms. However, the strength of these encryption algorithms depends on the quality of the random numbers used to generate the encryption keys. Okay, the random numbers are actually the backbone of these encryption keys. Today, these random numbers actually are created by algorithm itself. Okay, so anything that's created by an algorithm basically is somehow deterministic. So you can predict, because it's a son of an algorithm that create these random numbers, you could predict if you have the means and the power to do it. You could predict actually if the series of these random number will be the next random number. Because they are created by algorithms, they are not really random. They're called pseudo-random numbers. And to make an encryption key uncrackable, what you need is actually to have true random numbers. So how do you accomplish that? In fact, you to be able in the classical physical world that we live in nature, there is nothing that is actually random. There is no physical phenomenon that is random. Everything can be basically break down and actually is deterministic in itself. The only way in nature that you can rely on pure random numbers is to rely on quantum physics. Sorry to stop on there just for a second, but I wanted to, kind of get into that because we have seen, kind of current random number generators as far as technology goes. We've heard the same thing where you can't get a random number from a computer program because, again, if it was a random, then it wouldn't be able to run. You need to be able to, predict on it. Some of the kind of workarounds we've seen are, kind of measuring randomness in the world around us, where they'll have like a big long equation and they'll plug in the current humidity in Dubai multiplied by the current price of inflation with the US dollar. Little things like that can give you a random number. But as far as quantum goes, why is how and I don't know if you can quantify this in a number, but how by a factor of how much, or how much better is quantum over little values like that we have traditionally? Is it is this something that is going to be just way better than what we currently have? Yes, absolutely. Because again, all these phenomena that Jules describes actually are not really random. They could be predicted if you had exactly the parameters that they were responsible actually to the creation of the phenomenon. So and that's the reason why when we talk about randomness, or another way to say it in physics is pure entropy.
Right.
The only way you can guarantee that a phenomenon is going to be purely random is to rely, in fact, on this incredible ability that is almost counterintuitive of the quantum particles, like a photon on an electron, that can be at the same time there can be a particle with a mass and a wave.
Yeah,
so
and
typically, for example, yes,
right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I wanted to, so now we have an idea that we can get better randomness and we can get better random numbers. The next question that the audience may have would be, why does that matter? Why are random numbers so important to everything?
They're very important because if you create encryption keys that the backbone of this encryption are purely random numbers. That means that by knowing actually the previous numbers, you can never predict the next number because they are purely random. Okay, it's not the case today. If you had the power of, with, for example, particularly quantum computers and know-how, you could crack, in fact, almost any key potentially. And the fact that all these encryption keys are independent, these numbers generated by encryption keys are independent one from another, make them unpredictable.
That would be certainly useful, and you're mentioning the scales at which people could kind of crack keys and things like that. I'm interested in seeing or thinking about which industries or which entities would be interested in a product like yours. Are you working strictly with government? Are you with a telecommunications company? I would assume not so much like the individual, for whatever purpose. But what entities do you see quantum emotion working with?
But so our technology is first of all, it's an hardware solution. Okay, unlike most of there's a lot of this. I mean, the industry of cybersecurity in itself is booming. It's for obvious reasons, because cyber criminality has increased by 4 times during the COVID, and it was already a problem. Now it's really a huge a headache.
Mm-hmm.
And it has actually really even strategic consequences, because there is situations where the life and death situations. It's very, very concerning and very threatening. For almost every aspect of the economy. So when we talk about the market, potentially it's almost every vertical of the economy can be interested to have actually to harden. Enhance their cybersecurity. Our solution goes to completely upstream of the cybersecurity at the root of the problem. It's not just patches that you come, down the road trying to fix the problem. By creating softwares, solution that what we call the patches.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are trying to address the problem at the roots. And the roots is actually to create a signal that is actually purely uncrackable by relying actually on technologies that themselves rely on the quantum mechanics phenomenons.
And this is a whole different part of the conversation, because here in the United States, I don't know how much you follow when it comes to encryption, decryption, public policy concerning that. There was, of course, Europe is working with recently the GDPR, whatever it is, and this idea that encryption helps the bad guys, and encryption is a bad thing if our government, or quote unquote the good guys, don't have access to the keys, or to be able to decrypt it. What you're saying there is that no one would be able to, regardless of whatever. And of course, there may be keys that you could hand out, but this is going to be very basic. But do you think encryption, and especially in your case, uncrackable encryption, is that inherently a good thing?
That's becoming a most moral and political question.
Just a bit, but of course you're the ones who's providing the latest tools in that.
It's a great question, and I should certainly not I would say claim that I'm going to be able to give you the answer. But yes, actually, you could develop systems based on technologies like ours that can make it absolutely uncrackable for any party. That means that you become completely, insulated from anything, government, criminals, anything. Now, that is becoming a political question at some point, because you could also create backdoors, in any system, if you design it for that, where, agencies and government could have access to whatever they want. And it's actually, it's a choice at the end. It's a political, and I think I think in the US, if I'm not wrong, it's actually right now on the Congress, there are discussions about that, at the Congress level. So again, it's a very important question, I think, because it goes back to the individual rights,
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And we try not to dabble too much into politics. It used to be easier. Technology was very apolitical, but nowadays, it's politics trying to creep into technology.
It's all depending if you see the government as a friend or an enemy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so with all that being said, we're again getting back to this kind of quantum RNG kind of thing that's happening here. And I wanted to actually talk to you about a certain part of this because, here on the screen, QNG2, you can see the chip there. You mentioned that you have a purely hardware specific, kind of solution here. And I have to ask the question, and this may be just for my clarification, are you selling quantum computers? Is this, can you interface this with current systems, and I know that you're still developing it, but how are you bridging that gap between something that is quantum that is, not supposed to be achievable by traditional computers, and you're selling a hardware solution? What is the hardware?
Okay, so now we're not, again, I repeat, we're not in the business of quantum computers.
Right.
It's a quantum technology, but so that actually focus on quantum communications.
Gotcha.
So what we are creating now, it's we're finalizing the manufacturing and the development of our first product that would be a sort of a portable QRNG, sort of a piece of hardware that would contain a security model that will provide sort of a bulletproof protection for anything sensitive data that you want to send over the internet or stay inside a server. For example, it will make even blockchain-based processes even more inviolable. And this is at the core, actually, of what the value of the blockchain is, actually the security. But there has already been examples of blockchain today with the current technology are not as inviolable that they believe they are. So anything over the internet, could actually be, protected, in an uncrackable way, using this type of technology. So we see our first technology as a sort of a big USB key on the first iteration of our product. But you would be able to connect that to your, for example, to your laptop, and be sure that everything that is sent or through your computer to other from your computer to other computers is uncrackable. And we'll have also very rapidly the same version of a sort of a PCI Express card that could be embedded into a desktop or a server for for other usage.
The type of use case you just mentioned sounds a lot like a VPN, but of course a VPN would be able to utilize better encryption, because that's what they do. They encrypt and
exactly.
Send it. Yeah,
exactly. They're going to be even better. Yeah.
Yep. And of course, so all that's even better. And that's where I wanted to kind of take our next question, because you mentioned cybersecurity is already an issue. The pandemic has caused rapid transition to online. And we see companies that traditionally were not targets of cybercrime. Suddenly you have pipelines, school districts, you have government buildings, so many potential targets. And I'm curious as to your technology with, this QRNG and this kind of thing. if your technology were to be implemented, how much cybercrime would be, kind of stop? And I don't know if you have these numbers specifically, but I mean, how effective would you be at stopping, what percentage of crime? Because some crime is simply people don't use good passwords. People don't, people click on a link that's bad.
Exactly. Look, it's a great question, because our technology cannot be obviously the solution for everything. If you give away your passwords, I mean, nothing is going to protect you.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think this technology addresses probably the most complex, and problems, the ones, for example, that you'll have, military information, that needs to be protected, government, government affairs, government information. That's actually where, when you have actual cyber criminals, going to these, in trying to crack this institution or hack this institution, they use an extremely very sophisticated method, and having actually signals that are uncrackable, by nature, will make the life of the hackers almost impossible. So I'm not, again, what I'm saying is, if somebody wants to get into your computer in a very sophisticated way, because not just without you having given your password or let it open, I think you will need eventually to have that type of security that would protect you in most of the situations. For example, going to sometimes with some countries where it happened to me once, where I would not say the name of the country, but I knew that when I was in the country, something weird was happening in my computer. So, and because it was connected to the internet, so, and that certainly, I wish I would have had that, access to a solution like the one we're developing, because that would have certainly make me sure or assure me that any information contained in my computer will be not, stolen.
Right. You can definitely see that in a lot of the news that we report on when it comes to cybercrime, is that, the costs to benefit, the cost to benefit for not just individuals and groups, but of course for entire countries, throw a couple $1 million at it, and you could get a lot more access to information that you shouldn't have. And you could see that, my point with that is that it's very cost effective. It benefits people greatly to look at anything and everything that they possibly can. So if you think that you're not at risk, it could be a situation where you're just going to get caught in the crossfire. And everyone's trying to. There are a lot of entities out there trying to see everything that they possibly can. So
I think the best example also I can give you would be probably securing financial transaction, because this is typically a situation where if you're able to crack the encryption keys, because that's the typical, everything that you connected to a bank, you transfer money and everything is encrypted completely. So if you had a way to get into these and crack these encryption keys, basically you have access to the information and money and everything, So cryptocurrencies, financing transaction, blockchain are probably, and this is area of the economy that are very popular now. They are growing tremendously. And this is areas where definitely our technology could make a big difference.
And I was reading some of the other main features. You could see them here up on your website, and I wanted to kind of highlight this as well, because it's one thing to come in with a completely new technology and say, we do it better, and this is going to replace everything, blah blah blah, and those kinds of improvements don't really make a lot of news, because they, there's so much sunk cost fallacy that they're not going to change what they have. I'm seeing here that a lot of kind of the features that you're sporting here are that you integrate with other people's technology. Like, you work in complement with what's already existing. How important was that to you?
That's very important, because as I said before, when you asked me a question about the markets, everything, potentially you will have a hard time, we're spending hours here. We'll have a hard time finding actually a vector of the economy or a business that is not affected potentially by cybersecurity. So it's absolutely everything. So, and just to give you an example, the Internet of Things. Mm-hmm. I read recently a report that said that 97% of the objects, the devices that are connected to the internet are actually no secure. And I mean, everything is, and as you know, the generation of everything. The last week I bought a new coffee machine, and guess what? It's connected to the internet. Yes, absolutely. So I mean, and 97% actually have no protection. Actually, every time a new door that actually you created for potentially for cyber criminals to get in.
Right. Yeah. Whenever this kind of topic comes up, I always tell people about, the true severity of it, because every one of these devices could act as a bot in a botnet, and trust me, hackers love to gain access to them. And some things you just don't really think about. Where my go-to example was a hotel, I want to say in France or something like that, that had a wine fridge or like a wine freezer, like a giant cooled storage area for wine, and you would think that, well, they connected to the internet so that they could, kind of monitor it and obviously get data from it. Well, someone gained access to the system, and it's like, well, what could they do with that? They cranked the temperature up, cranked the humidity up, and it ruined hundreds of thousands of dollars of priceless wine. And it's like, exactly. They didn't gain anything from that, but they sure did cause a lot of damage with something that would not traditionally be a target.
Absolutely, it's the same as happened. I think in November with the plant. That was a water plant in Florida. You remember if you heard about that? That they changed actually the parameters of the purification of water. And in fact, all the water that was coming out of the plant was toxic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they changed something.
They catch it at time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they changed something from like 1 part per million to like 10,000 part per million, and exactly. it would have killed anyone that had actually drank that. So clearly, a lot of sectors, and you can see that much like you've been alluding to, government agencies in particular, through military communications, through securing infrastructure, which has been a big point lately. Definitely a lot of verticals that you could work yourself into. And I wanted to also touch on kind of how, is there competition for you? Are you the only ones? And actually, I know that quantum communication is being worked on in so many different areas, but how is the market for this kind of thing? You mentioned in 4 to 5 years, you're hoping that quantum computers become, maybe not like a household item, but at least available enough to the industry that you can start using applications for this. How is your market, and how is this market, and how is your competition?
Absolutely. So, I mean, my quick answer to you is actually, thanks God we have competition, because if we don't, that would be very suspicious. That would be we're the only one actually is trying to promote the technology that nobody believes that. Mm-hmm. Actually, yes, it's been already actually the other companies developing QRNGs. The great majority of them have taken another approach. They're using photons. It's another quantum particle to create these quantum numbers. We are the only one who have a solid IP, that actually use the electron tunnel effect. And we believe by doing that, our technology is very robust, very cheap, very simple, very scalable. And I'm not saying that we're going to occupy the whole market, but certainly a big chunk of it. And the interesting thing about the market is, there was a report that was released in January of this year. Mm-hmm. And because all the things that we discussed about the problem of cybersecurity and the threat of quantum computers, today the market for QRNGs is probably less than $50 million. It's still, I think, in many ways a curiosity because it's a novel technology. But it is predicted by the end of the decade that the market would be in the vicinity of $14 billion US. So we're talking about accumulated annual growth of 60%, was a huge. So
Definitely a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, so there is a room for a lot of people, a lot of companies, a lot of different technologies who approach maybe the problem with a slightly different angle.
And of course, part of this whole thing is, you mentioned that you have a patent that it's been proven that you can deliver random numbers. I saw that you were certified by an organization, I believe, here in the U.S. But still, when it comes to the underlying, kind of thing that you're working with, again, quantum and quantum physics and quantum dynamics, all that kind of thing. Can you patent that? Obviously you have the hardware solution and you're working with that. Fundamentally, though, this is a technology that your company can run with, right? This isn't something. It's not like trying to patent water, right?
No, absolutely not. In fact, you can't. By definition, you can never. You can never patent something that was created by nature. So we cannot patent, quantum physics, for example,
right?
Or anything, or any phenomenon. What we can patent is the usage and the manipulation, in fact, of these properties to create a product that has a human, usage. So that's what is patentable.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so with clearly a lot of upside, the technology is developing. Obviously, this will get better and better and faster and faster. I guess as a company and your goal with quantum emotion, is your goal, do you feel, is more televangelist and you're trying to get the message out, or do you feel it's to push the technology and push the solution to be more consumer friendly? What is your main goal in the next couple of years?
I think is to develop, first of all, our first product, and hopefully it will be done fairly rapidly. I think is, to also this company, and this is interesting for your listeners, I guess, we are actually a public company. We are listed, on the Toronto Stock Exchange and also on the OTC QB, very soon. Actually, we're in the last straight line, to be, it just will happen probably before the end of in July.
Congratulations.
Yes. So, and I think it would be an opportunity actually to bring new investors in the company. I think it's a great opportunity for your listeners that are interested by quantum technologies, and they want to jump in the bandwagon, because most of the companies in this field today are not public. They're not accessible to the regular investor that is interested in these technologies. So that's part of my role, is not to call it the televangelist, if you want, is right. Actually to sort of promote the company and said, guys, this is great, an opportunity even from an investment perspective in a field that doesn't need to prove that there is an unmet need. I think cybersecurity, every day, the media is reminding us that it's a huge problem.
Yeah, I just yesterday on the show we had an author that was we had an author that was there at Star, which was made by Xerox, back in the 80s, and he was in the middle of that, and of course with Steve Jobs and Apple and the whole 81 fiasco out there at Alto, whatever. Anyways, the point is that one of the best things Steve Jobs did was that he was kind of a marketing guy. He was able to convince people that, this is what you need in your home, in your business. And I think every industry, kind of needs that. And that seems to be where quantum is as well. Like, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of, kind of advancements that quantum computing needs. But as far as quantum encryption and, this QRNG that you're pushing, you need people to be interested. You need people to be intrigued by the technology.
Absolutely, and and it's coming. It's obviously it is a new market, new technologies. Is still a little bit esoteric for most of people, but I mean, as I said before, and we discussed, you look at all the big players, IBM, Intel, Amazon, everybody is investing heavily, in these quantum technologies. So, and they have probably a lot of resources to do good analysis of what's coming, So
right.
imagine, that it's not a problem of if, it's a problem of when, I guess.
So, and this is, more from like a personal thing. Obviously, Computer America, we're based in the U.S. We deal a lot with Silicon Valley, New York, that whole thing. Our good friend Nelson has brought us a couple of guests from the, from Canada and obviously from Quebec and places like that. Do I need to put Quebec, as a tech center? Because, clearly stuff is happening there. How is the tech scene in Canada in general?
The tech scene actually is very great. I think, I'm actually a European myself. I'm not originally from Canada and Quebec. I just have been living here now for over 20 years. I used to be in the US at some point in my career too. And but yes, certainly. I was impressed always in Canada, and particularly in Quebec. Our great technologies are created in this province. I think there is a wonderful history about developing technologies and as particularly in Montreal, they have great universities, and they are at the front of artificial intelligence, for example, is considered one of the hubs in North America. And quantum technologies also, I think the governments are pushing very strong to create also a hub here about quantum technology. So definitely, the American listeners should get interested in what's going on in Canada, and particularly in Quebec.
I'll certainly add it to my list, and I think with that, I'm trying to see. I think we did a pretty good job of outlining the solution that you have here, the technology behind it. I wanted to give you an opportunity to touch on anything that we didn't talk about. Is there any part of this that we didn't cover?
No, I think you did a great job. You asked me very good questions. I think we covered everything that is important.
And I really do think so as well. And of course, if people want to find more information, I'm assuming the website would be the best place to visit.
Absolutely, you have a corporate presentation, and most of the things I said it is written and better than I said.
Well, no, I honestly think that you did a really good job. Everyone, we have been talking to the Chief Executive Officer, Francis Bellido, and you did a great job coming on the show and breaking this down for us. This is a technology to definitely keep an eye out for, but as you mentioned, it's ready to go. Like this is a proven technology. Now it's just about getting a product out there.
Exactly. We know that it works. Now it's actually getting a commercial product. And it's full of scale up now.
Yep. And hey, now it's a waiting game, but of course for you and your team, that means a lot of work. So I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come on the show and talk to us about this. So I think with that, I'm going to be very, very rude and kind of end the call here, Francis. But again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It was my pleasure. And talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Thank you. So everyone out there who's going to continue to listen, we will be doing computer and technology news, and we'll start that in just a moment. So here we go. And once again, Quantum Emotion, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including that interview. We'll have the video portion, the audio portion, any part of it that you'd like to listen to again. Hey, you'll find it right there. So without further ado, we have about 20 minutes left. I love the amount of time that Francis was able to give to us for that interview, but hey, we have plenty of time for computer and technology news, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Here we go. Why don't we talk about this one? So this one came out yesterday, but of course it's still being circulated, kind of today as well. But it has to do with Facebook and its new valuation. Just the other day, we talked about Microsoft and the fact that it just hit $2 trillion as well. It was only the second company that was able to attain that. Apple has since fallen from that a little bit, but of course Facebook is now a $1 trillion company. The schlubs, how do they afford to keep their lights on with only $1 trillion? But yeah, you can see it here from Business Insider. And essentially, Facebook leapt into the $1 trillion territory on Monday after an antitrust court victory. And this just goes to prove that I don't know if the cases built by the FTC just weren't that good, but clearly Facebook. I think that a lot of people would look at Facebook and go, there's some practices here that aren't on the up and up. There's a lot of market domination. There's, probably a lot of finances that are very misleading with Facebook. By and large, Facebook has a lot to answer for. But one thing that they didn't have was these two court cases, and the judge threw them out of antitrust court, and the stock price shot up 4%, and that 4% gave them just enough to close at $1 trillion. The ensuing rally lifted Facebook into $1 trillion territory, as we mentioned, and boosted the rest of the tech sector. They mentioned that the U.S. District Judge James Brosberg in Washington ruled that the FTC failed to support its claim that Facebook held monopoly power as it controls more than 60% of the social networking market. However, the Antitrust and Consumer Protection Agency has 30 days to refile its complaint and try again. They definitely will do that. Facebook has a huge domination when it comes to revenue, when it comes to market share. They have such a big portion of it. And then, of course, when you consider that they own WeChat, Instagram, Facebook, of course, and a couple of other properties. And the fact that this article is actually coming to us from the India version of Business Insider goes even more to that point where I know this is all U.S. courts and U.S. FTC kind of thing, but Facebook has been making major investments in third world and developing countries where they are building out the infrastructure for the internet. And it's almost like the internet brought to you by Google, if you could imagine. There's going to be portals directly to its own services. Its own services are going to be serving ads to people. Facebook has been making huge investments so that as the next billion, 2 billion, 3 billion people come online, they associate Facebook with the internet. And that is certainly the case in India in particular. They're running their own game that it's hard to fathom because we've rarely had companies that are this large and have this much dominance. But here we are. They mentioned that the judge separately dismissed a lawsuit brought by 46 states challenging Facebook's purchase of Instagram and WhatsApp on grounds that they waited too long to put forward their claims. Yeah, I mean, it's been a couple of years, but I feel like the point still stands. These are all still very popular products by a company. It's not like they waited until Kmart was too dominant in the space. I mean, but yeah, I digress. The state's attorneys general argued that Facebook had acquired those companies to stifle competition from emerging social media rivals. That is the tech sphere in general, though. Whenever a company is on the up and coming, they purchase them. Like that is kind of the business strategy, where these venture capitalists will pump in millions or billions of dollars into these businesses in hopes that a much larger business acquire and buy them out, and everyone makes a bit of pocket change and innovation continues in the tech sector. You wait until the Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook type businesses go ahead and buy you up. That is a lot of people's exit strategies. But I digress. Facebook co-founder Mark Zuckerberg is the youngest of 5 U.S. companies to hit the 1 trillion milestone after just 17 years of existence. Although I will say, when it comes to social media, no other company has been as dominant as Facebook. You know, that's one of the things it takes to be a $1 trillion company, and that is truly dominant in your space. There you go. Now, Facebook stock has added about $600 billion in value since it hit a March 2020 market cap of about $400 billion. That's a little misleading though, because obviously March 2020 the entire economy fell out. That's a very cherry-picked way to kind of say that. I mean, everything lost 40% of its value because coronavirus was running rampant. But yeah, still, they have gained a lot of value, and it was only a matter of time before they hit the 1 trillion. And they did. So, congratulations, if congratulations are needed, to that whole thing. Okay, how about this one? Apple, if you thought that they couldn't be any more kind of weird behind the scenes. Obviously, they have their own ethos, and they're trying to stick to their morals and making sure that no information is leaked about their customers. They won't give passwords or access to data on people's phones to law enforcement. Apple has been very kind of privacy focused. Now, they're taking it a step further with a contract with Axon. You may remember the name because Axon has huge contracts with local police departments, and that's a whole can of worms that if you haven't heard about that, I highly recommend you go check out Axon and body cams, and how they will actually give away body cams for free to government agencies and then rope them into long-term contracts that are very lucrative for their own company to access the data that is being recorded from those body cams, making it very, very difficult for cost-strapped police departments to actually switch from Axon to other companies. But that's a whole can of worms. This one, Apple makes employees wear body cameras to control leaks. They mentioned that Apple's attempts to ensure that information remains secret have crossed a line. That's according to Simon Lohman and Karen Haslam. This from Macworld. And yeah, employees must wear police-like body cameras. According to the Front Page Tech article, some employees now have to wear cameras on their bodies to ensure that its hardware trade secrets stay out of the hands of leakers like our very own John Prosser. It said that this is a camera similar to an Axon Body 2, which is used by U.S. police departments. You can see it there up on the screen. The manufacturer describes the Axon Body 2, the ideal video solution for emergency services worldwide. Now, obviously, for Apple employees to have to use that, that's taking it a step further, because I don't think anyone would argue that an Apple employee is an emergency service provider. But Apple has recently targeted Apple leakers such as Kang and concept creator Germain. And they mentioned that the irony is that all the people the leaker to whom Apple no longer wanted to pass on information was the first to bring information of these drastic measures to the public. So far, this accusation has not been confirmed by any other source, which is why quite a lot of questions remain unanswered. If the accusation is correct, can the employees who are allegedly forced to wear these cameras also switch them off? What happens if they have to go to the restroom? Does such a camera actually prevent leaks? After all, employees could also spread the leaks simply from home. That's one of the things, is that you can try to monitor people 9 to 5 as much as you want, but you can't control what they do outside the office. You could have like non-disclosure agreements and you could have contracts and all that good thing, but this seems to be chasing an impossible level of secrecy that Apple will never have. And I gotta say that even Apple in particular, people are so hungry for Apple rumors and gossip and news that, there's always going to be leaks. And I think that the leaks in particular actually kind of benefit them more so than anything else. So there you go. They mentioned that the only acceptable concern, we believe, is that these secrets could go to Apple's competitors who might copy new features. This reminds of us of the Apple versus Samsung case, which began in 2011 and eventually saw a U.S. court order Samsung to pay $500 in damages to Apple for copying features of the original iPhone. Still, intellectual property, very much an issue. These companies want to keep their stuff that's in development secret and under wraps. Are body cameras the answer? No, but credit where credit is due, and a little bit of a wag of my finger to Macworld. Rumors, very unsubstantiated rumors, and to start reporting on this immediately. I mean, Apple can track people. Admittedly, they can't really film them from their phones or anything like that, but they have Apple AirTags. Why not just tag your employees with Apple AirTags? That seems to be safe and sane. They should probably just do that. Joking, of course, if you didn't catch that. How about our next story? And we only have time for maybe 2 more stories. A little bit of justice. Juul. We've talked about them before. They are an e-cigarette, a vaping pen, and Juul in particular. They have been accused of marketing to kids. Some of their flavors have been very, have been very childish, I kind of guess, with, mango sherbet and other things like that. It's very childlike. Their marketing is big, bright colors, very kid-friendly in their advertising for what is essentially smoking. Vaping, smoking, it has nicotine. You can get them with nicotine, and it has, as studies have come out, more and more we're seeing that the line between vaping and smoking cigarettes is extremely thin. One begets the other. Well, Juul to pay North Carolina $40 million and stop targeting kids after igniting vaping epidemic. That's what they say. Juul claims that they never targeted kids, so I have to get that out there first. But a lot of their marketing was, could be seen by youth as very appealing. Now, electronic cigarette maker Juul and the state of North Carolina have reached a settlement over the state's claims that Juul aggressively targeted its highly addictive products to youth, igniting a vaping epidemic. Now, Juul claims they did no wrongdoing. They have done nothing wrong in this settlement. So they pay $40 million and they didn't do anything wrong. So there you go. Additionally, the company will adhere to a list of restrictions aimed at blocking any promotion and sales of its products to youth, which they have always maintained they never did. So that would also be a stipulation that they really don't care about. According to the list, Juul won't use advertisements that may appeal to youth. It will avoid most social media advertising and the use of influencers. It won't sponsor sports and entertainment events like concerts, and it won't use anyone under the age of 35 in its marketing. Juul was definitely used by influencers, and it was definitely trying to get that, as they claimed, 21 to 27 aged young adult, early 20s smoker. That was their target audience, and of course, it had the side effect of causing teenagers, as young as 11, 12, 13, to pick up the habit as well. They mentioned that the company also agreed to help enforce age restrictions by running a secret shopper program. Juul will send undercover representatives aged 21 to 27 into at least 50 stores throughout North Carolina per month to check whether retailers are verifying ages. There you go. You've been warned. The settlement comes after years of allegations and criticism that Juul intentionally and egregiously targeted adolescents in its marketing campaigns. According to a lawsuit filed last year by Massachusetts, Juul's marketing campaigns in 2015 and 2016 included running ads on websites such as Cartoon Network's CartoonNetwork.com. Which cartoons, you can like cartoons at any age, but to say that is an appropriate place for vaping, not so much. And congressional testimony in summer 2019 revealed that Juul representatives gave presentations to teens inside schools without teachers present or parental consent. You have to remember that vaping not too long ago, before it really became what it is today, there were people that, without a lot of research and without a lot of medical knowledge, were saying that vaping was completely safe. It was water vapor. It causes no harm. It's not addictive. It's, it's just fun. It's water vapor. It tastes good, so on and so forth. And since then, we have seen, and so there was really no fear from kids that smoking or I should say vaping would cause any kind of lasting effect, any kind of addiction, anything like that. We have since learned that people are getting addicted to vaping at equal rates as cigarettes when nicotine is in those Juul pods. Just a couple of years ago, vaping was seen as a non-harmful replacement. If you want to stop smoking, start vaping. It's way better for you. Don't worry about it. So to hear that they were giving presentations in schools without teachers present, that's pretty weird. Still, the resolution of the lawsuit is likely just the start of legal movement for Juul. Several other states, including Massachusetts, have filed lawsuits against the company because clearly these advertising campaigns were not just in North Carolina, but rather in states all over the country. Man, we covered those. That was a particularly strange time for the country here, but hey, we have seen weirder times indeed. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Thank you again to Quantum Emotion for joining us here on the program. If you want to find out more, computeramerica.com or quantumemotion.com as well. Everyone, until next time, we should have Scott Schober here on the program tomorrow, all about cybersecurity. We're looking forward to it. 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Have a great one. Bye.